Welcome back, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt. The audio and transcript of my interview with John Poland and Rachel Goldberg Poland is now posted at hughhewitt.com. I'll play the conclusion of that interview after I talk with my next guest, Noah Rothman, who is the senior political writer at National Review. Hello, Noah. How are you?
Hi, Hugh. I'm great. How are we doing?
Good. I listened to the editors today on my drive to the studio, and I'm going to let you expand on it. But Caitlin Collins last night said on CNN, we're 3 weeks into the Trump administration, and we are dangerously close to many say that we are dangerously close to a constitutional crisis. To which I responded, this is ridiculous. I've been teaching constitutional law for 27 years. Arguably, the last time we were close to a constitutional crisis was the court packing plan in 1937, but that didn't go anywhere. And the actual last constitutional crisis we had was the Civil War. I think you guys gave way too much credit to the idea of there being a constitutional crisis today.
You have a high bar, though, to establish constitutional crises.
It is either
a usurpation of Article 3 or Civil War.
No,
that's a high bar.
It's when it doesn't work. It's when, and it's still working. Nothing is not working. It worked on 1/6. It worked on 9/11. It works. It's very strong.
Yeah. Okay, sure. We could argue semantics. I think your definition approaches closer to a constitutional calamity than a crisis. A crisis implies resolution is possible, a desirable resolution is possible, and I do think if the president were flagrantly violating court orders, and a court enjoined as something that the president did, and he just said, "Dare you to enforce it."
Andrew Jackson, the court has made its order. Let them enforce it. That was a constitutional crisis.
Yeah. I mean, but we're not there yet.
No, we're not even close.
Many are saying.
Based on the 4 years of Trump, based on the first 4 years, did he ever trigger a constitutional crisis?
No. And a lot of the people who are defending, and I was listening to a CNN panel yesterday evening where Scott Jennings was entertaining the notion that because these the court when they enjoined these orders, and then some of them are usurping authority, according to him. And I think there's an arguable case to be made there for some, maybe not for others. But they're instituting the constitutional crisis, and to observe that order would be itself the constitutional crisis. I think we're all just talking ourselves in circles here. Joe Biden, when he said, "I'm going to disobey the Supreme Court on student loans, watch me do it," he didn't really do it. He just wanted people to think they were doing it. J.D. Vance and the Trump administration aren't ignoring the court orders that are putting a halt to some of the things they want to do temporarily while other courts review it. They want people to think they are, which I think is its own level of impropriety.
I think what J.D. Vance, the vice president, posted is, you may not do this. We'll see you in court. He didn't say that we'll see you in court, but it's all being litigated in a rather routine fashion.
And if J.D. Vance were to say, "We'll see you in court," without giving a single inch of their argument to their opponents, but merely saying we will prevail in the court of law, there wouldn't be a single thing to say about it. They do, however, and both Democrats and Republicans do this nowadays, they do, however, want to project a level of zeal for their political cause that will be undeterred by the fundaments of rule of law in this country. Little obstacles like a judge's decision will not deter us from
I want to push back on that.
I think that's... All right.
Hamilton in Federalist 70s.
I think there's impropriety there.
Hamilton in Federalist 70s said, energy in the executive is the hallmark of every successful regime. Hamilton in 78 says there's obviously judicial review. And Marbury v. Madison sets it up. We have a system. It works. District courts shouldn't be issuing national injunctions like popcorn at a theater, but they are. And the Supreme Court's going to get to this. And the Roberts Court, Trump built the trampoline, now he's jumping on it. He built circuits that will divide, now he's jumping up. I just think it's ridiculous to alarm people about a constitutional crisis when it's not even, we're not even remotely close to the real deal.
There's quite a lot that the administration wants to test at the Supreme Court level that I'm eager to see resolved. The constitutionality of inspectors general, as you say, previously, also the Impoundment Act and the ability of the president to reserve funds that are appropriated by Congress. I think the Supreme Court has a lot of things to clear up. The question is whether the administration is crafting quote-unquote test cases that will redound to its benefit when they're reviewed by the appellate courts and possibly the Supreme Court, if the Supreme Court decides to take it up. There's an analysis by Jack Goldsmith and a co-author that suggests he's unimpressed by the degree to which the administration has tried to prep the battle space for a successful challenge to some of these restrictions on Article 2's authority.
Did you read Jack Goldsmith's biography, by the way? He wrote an
No, I have
autobiography
not.
about his
No.
dad, his stepdad being fingered as the Hoffa murderer. It's fascinating. It's one of the most interesting books
I
I've
have
ever
read that.
read.
I have read that.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I've not read the book, but I did hear that bizarre connection.
it's
Nevertheless, I
and
defer to Mr. Goldsmith.
he's a brilliant man. I'll go read that. Let me
Mhm.
ask you about this. I think Donald Trump issued the order on birthright citizenship in order to have a test case because he doesn't believe it's going to work. I don't believe it's going to work. I don't want it to work. I think birthright citizenship was the practice of the United States from 1868 forward when the 14th Amendment was passed. And I don't care what a couple of senators said on the floor because it's the plain reading of the statute. But I'm sure they want to close that book, right, Noah? Don't they just want to close the book?
Maybe. I mean, I'm sure there are ideologues within the administration who believe that this is neither essential to the American character nor properly read, and judicial precedent around it is more expansive than it was properly understood in 1868 when it was ratified by the states. I think there are true believers within the administration's firmament. There are probably others who just want to get this question answered and behind them. There's a political risk involved here insofar as these priorities, these legal priorities, while really important to the conservative legal movement, are a bit boutique for the rest of the country. And they
I
did
agree with
elect
that.
this president to become very serious about immigration and get consumer prices down. And to the
I
extent that they
think
don't see the president focusing on consumer prices, that's a warning sign. We saw that in the CBS News poll over the weekend.
now, Andy McCarthy argues he wants the impoundment and budget control tested. I want the Civil Service Reform Act of 1978 tested because the Article 2 power has been greatly truncated by statutory encroachments for 200 years. And it's time to figure out what the president can do. I want to give you the last minute, Noah. Do you expect the pace of challenges to slacken after this initial flurry of month-long series of EOs?
I think I do, but I'm deferring to Yuval Levin's logic on that, which makes perfect sense to me. Every new administration comes in with a head full of steam, resolved to do as much as quickly as possible with a lot of plans, and all of them get exhausted pretty quickly. And those avenues having been fully explored, they end up encountering a lethargic or resistant Congress, or political obstacles in the culture and the zeitgeist, or the courts who slow things down. So
That's
yes, I
it.
anticipate we're going to see the pace
That's
of
it.
news
Start as
slow down.
fast, go as far and as fast as you can, but expect to decelerate because that's the law of physics, political physics. Noah C. Rothman on X, thank you. Go listen to the Editors America because the Editors today was all about this. It was a fascinating edition of the Editors, their podcast.